Everyone talks about Mark Knopfler's fingers, but this tiny little orange box may have done more for this tone than anyone gives it credit for. And today, I'm going to build it from scratch on Tagboard. Before we get into this one, I've got to say a huge thank you to everyone who's watched so far, bought pedals. I can't believe how big the show's grown. We're at 8,800 subscribers. My goal was 3,000 this year. It's insane. Could I ask a huge favour from everyone watching now? If you're watching on a mobile device, go down to the comment section, flip across and press the hype function. For some reason, YouTube sees this as valuable and it'll help share my video to more people. Thank you so much for supporting the show. And if you haven't got the hype function, please do like and subscribe. It really does help the channel. Thank you. This is what we're going to be using for today's build. We got this bad boy. Look at this for an enclosure. I've gone with the snake skin finish again just because I absolutely love how it looks. Now, what else have we got? Apart from all the resistors and stuff for this, we've got 10 tags of Tagboard. Can you believe it? 10 aside. This thing's absolutely massive. I don't know how I'm going to fit it in the enclosure. Maybe it'll fit somewhere like that. It quite possibly might squeeze in widthways, but I don't know. It's massive. Anyway, check this out. I've managed to get all of our signal caps are going to be blue moulded caps. Get on that. I took a delivery the other day and made up. I absolutely cannot wait to see how this sounds. This is our enclosure. It looks good, I think, but it's kind of missing something in the centre. Do you think I should put some sort of badge or artwork in the centre? Or do you think I should leave it just as it is? Let me know in the comments. Before we get soldering, what is the Dan Armstrong Orange Squeezer? Well, let me tell you, it's a simple compressor. It uses just an Opamp. And today, we're building that on Tagboard. Just because it's cool, why not? And I'm sure there's going to be plenty of people in the comments telling me that I could have built this on a postage stamp with SMD components. All I would say to you is, please look at my channel. That kind of defeats the point. I like to do massive, huge builds that look like they could have been in amplifiers. If that offends you, then you're in the wrong channel. What you want to do is get yourself a big Tagboard and some big components, build one of these pedals, and then tell me what you think of it once you've built it. And yes, of course you could build it cheaper. And if you do build it cheaper, please let me know in the comments. Where to start with this one? It's a massive build, and as ever, I'm just going to start left to right on the board. Now, if we look at our drawing, we can see there's an awful lot on the outside of what I would say the outside of the tags. Through this centre row here, there is some components, but it seems like they've loaded most outboard. I'm going to try and stick to that if I can. We'll see. And the first component that we're up with today is the trim pot. I'm using this Iskra trim pot. These are particularly nice ones. And before anyone asks, no, I don't have a source for them. Unfortunately, I just bought a load of them when I found them available. The rule is when you find something good, you buy it all. I learned that from Marcus Reeves if anyone's interested. Now to set this up, I'm going to be using a offcut. In fact, I'm going to be using two offcuts if I can find them. There's another one. It's always handy to keep your offcuts a wire because they come in handy for this sort of thing. So how am I setting it up? If we look at our trim pot, the way it's set up is you have the wiper at the back here, and that is basically a little lever that slides along a carbon track, increasing or decreasing the resistance from this pin to either this one or this one. These are the ends of the carbon track. If we look at our drawing again, we can see that the centre wiper here is attached to one of the pins on the carbon track, and then it goes into the second tag in the top row. The other end pin on the carbon track goes into the first tag on the top row. So if we're going to have our trim pot sat like this, it means that this first pin here on the left hand side, this one here is going to be the one that attaches to pin 1, or to tag 1 should I say. And then the other tag, the other pin, why am I mixing up pins and tags today? Anyway, the other pin is going to attach to our wiper and go into tag 2. So let's sort out the wiper one first because that's a little bit more involved. Well, of course I'm cleaning the offcut with my snips, which people hate, my Nipex snips. Bloody love these things. Right, so what we're going to do is we're going to put that round the end pin and give it a little pinch so then it stays in place. And then I'm just going to bend the wire round the this pin at the back, or wiper, like this. And then all I have to do is solder them onto the pins, and we should have a nice little starting point. Remember, when you're soldering these trim pots, you really want to have your soldering iron hot. I have mine as hot as it'll go. I've got the Hakko FX888D, as everyone probably knows by now, and I absolutely love it. It goes up to, I think mine's reading 477 now because it's getting a bit old. It did used to read 480. Right, and then I'm just going to bend that. So then this pin is facing that way. Because what we're going to do is we're going to put it into this tag here. In fact, I want to go a bit further back than that. That was a bit ambitious, Joe. There. So what we've effectively created is we've turned both of these into a single contact point. And that'll fit in this one here. Great. Now, let's do the same thing again, but to this other pin or final one, which is going to go into the first tag. Again, I'm cleaning these offcuts with my Nip-X nips because the offcuts are actually from some sort of vintage component that I've no doubt been using to build with. My whole workshop's covered in them. I tell you what's nice though, if anyone builds a home, you'll understand this. When I used to build them on my wife's dining room table, these little offcuts would go everywhere, no matter how careful you are. They just get everywhere. And she would go bloody mental. Like the dog would get one trapped in his paw, and that would be me in the doghouse literally for days. But now I've got the workshop up and running, I don't need to worry about that. It's a godsend, let me tell you. This is pretty much our trim pot sorted out. Now, to do this, I could, of course, have mounted it onto a strip board and then run wires from the strip board out to the tags. That would have been equally as valid. In fact, I've started doing that after Hubcap John. John showed me how to do that for transistors, which was nice. He's a legend, by the way. If you ever wanted any artwork doing, or like signage or logos, he's your go-to man. He's bloody brilliant. Now we can solder these in. If we look at our drawing, we can see that there's a 4.7 NF, no, a 4.7 UF, because people hate me saying UF, 4.7 microfarad cap that goes in between these two tags as well. But I'm going to mount that in the center, so we'll come to that later on. I can't be bothered trying to squeeze it down the sides of this trim pot. It's not worth the hassle. Tell you what I should have done. Look at this, it's sitting a bit high there. So what I should have done is just snip the legs off. And same at the back. Because then you can bend it down and get it sitting nice and low. Not that it matters in this enclosure because the enclosure is massive. But what can I say, I'm obsessed with the way that things look on the inside. And I'm pretty sure that not everyone agrees with me because I get some funny comments. Oh, I tell you what I have done. Look at this. Okay, so if you look at our drawing here, you can see there's a link wire going between the second tag in the top row to the third tag in the bottom row. And I've completely missed that. Brilliant. So I'm going to have to add that in now. What we need is an offcut. I haven't got an offcut, but I have got this resistor. I'm just going to nick the leg off it. Sorry, mate. Right. So this is going between the second tag along and this third tag here. But actually, the second tag along is also connected to the back of our pot here. So I'm just going to run the wire straight to our pot there. That'll be nice and easy. It's close enough. All about the saying we have in the Navy, the engineering saying is adapt and overcome. Because basically when you're at sea, there's no one coming to give you any parts and there's no engineer coming to help you fix anything. So you just have to get on and get it fixed with what you've got. And things like this where you just attach stuff to the wrong part but it works, it's just a standard part of life on board, I think, as an engineer anyway. So I'll just line that up so it's remotely close to it, or touching it at the back, and then give it a little bit of a solder. If it actually solders, well done, Joe. There we are. Actually, that's also going to add just a little bit more stability to our pot when we're turning it around. Next up, there is a 470k resistor that we can see it goes on the outboard side by the look of it, but there's space on the inboard side to add it, so I'm just going to add it in now. And I'll be using one of these. These are modern resistors, and I tell you what, just finished, I don't know whether people will have seen it yet, but I finished building a Rangemaster with Todd from the Guitar Knobs and the Valentinos, the band that of the t-shirt I'm wearing today, funnily enough. I finished building a Rangemaster with him where he chose every part. So I picked up a few resistors and said, which one do you like the look of? and then he chose which one as I built it. And he also was playing while we tweaked it in. Brilliant. He chose these resistors, oddly enough, instead of the vintage ones, which I found rather interesting, because for someone like me, I'm picking the vintage ones every time, but he just didn't. Right, let's see. So I'm going to line it up and just bend the legs over so then it sits central over the first tag and the fourth tag, because they're the ones it's going to go in. And I am going to squeeze this one down the side of this pot, and I don't know why I've decided to do it with this one, but not that last one. I just am. And then bend the legs over 90 degrees so then it's sitting the same height. You don't need much on them. We could just about squeeze them in there so then it's sat in place. Let's have another quick look to see if anything else is going in these tags, and we can see that down here on the fourth tag there is another resistor going in there, so I can't solder that one, but I can solder the first one. I actually think I need a new soldering iron tip. This one's getting a bit old now. Top tip, by the way, people, instead of buying a new soldering iron every 5 minutes, get yourself a nice Hacko or something like that, something good, maybe a Weller or whatever, and then just buy new tips for like £5. I've had this soldering iron for years. Years! It's been round the world with me. And if you want one, you can get one through the affiliates link in the description. It is an Amazon affiliates link, so I get a little bit of a kickback. You don't get any extra charge, and you do get the peace of mind of knowing that you're using the same soldering iron as me, for whatever that's worth. Look at our drawing again. We've actually got nothing until we get right the way down to the bottom of this resistor, really. And then we've got our next 470k resistor, so we might as well add that in there. Now this one goes between... Oh, that's the wrong resistor. Come on, Joe. That would have been interesting. So this one goes between this fourth tag down and the 8th tag along here. So if we just line that up now, also looking at it, we can see that in the center here we've got our Opamp, and we've also got loads of other components up this end. So what I am going to do is I'm going to line this up so then this resistor is right the way this end, just so then if the body of it isn't over the top of whatever we're doing down there. Let's see if we bend that out and try and get it the same height. Or roughly, there you go. Oh, look at that. By eye as well. Pretty much the same height. And then we're going into the 8th tag along, so that's about there. I get told awful lot for using the snips to bend wires, because people say I'm going to damage the leg or whatever. I've never run into that problem before, but it's worth mentioning that if you're using your snips to bend components, you may hold them too tight and maybe snip the leg or something, or maybe put a groove in it that weakens it. So it's always worth buying a set of flat nose pliers as well. I actually had someone tell me these were called duckbill pliers, one of my American viewers, and so I mentioned it in a video and got absolutely hammered with people telling me that they call them flat nose pliers. So I'm just going to go ahead and carry on calling them what I call them. If anyone has an opinion on that, I'd love to know. Because all of my engineering skills are done navy-wise, I never know what's true to the outside world or not. It's very odd. Right, now if we look at our drawing again, we can see that down this end, this actually attaches to another cap. So I can't solder that end, but I can solder the two resistors together. I'll just snip that off for ease. There we go, we're looking good. Actually, I feel like I'm losing track of where we are because we're not adding the stuff in the outside. I'm going to have to, while I'm going along, start adding in all of the outside components. Otherwise, I feel like it's getting on top of me. It's really, really weird to say that, because normally I'd rather go down the centre and then move to the outside edge. But yeah, I just can't. It may look simple, but it's not as simple as you think, mainly because we've got that Opamp with 4 legs aside. It just makes it a bit more awkward. I still think that this is a beginner build that any beginner could do. So if you're the beginner attempting this build, please let me know in the comments. And if you have any questions about the build, please feel free to ask. Okay, so we're going back now to do the outside edge this side. And the first component we come to is a 4.7 microfarad, 4.7 UF cap. And I'm going to be using these duvalier caps. Now there's loads of 4.7 microfarad caps in this, 4 in total, and I'll be using these duvalier caps for them all, just because duvalier is a good brand. No other reason than that. Now if we look at our drawing, we can see that the negative side goes to tag 2. So I'm going to orientate that so the black line with the little negatives on is going to tag 2. Now if your capacitor hasn't got them lines on it, the longer leg will go to pin 1 because that's the positive, and the shorter leg will go to pin 2 because that's the negative. Now I'm only going to solder this first one in because we've got another resistor going into the negative leg. So I'll do that in a sec. I think it's going to be a bit of a mission for the value of this resistor as well. It's one that I haven't got in stock, or I don't use all that much. This resistor is going to be an interesting one. It's a 2.4k resistor. Now I normally use 2.2k or 1.5k, 1k. I don't normally use 2.4, and I just haven't got them. So this is my plan. I haven't measured it yet, so don't know if it's going to work. I've got this 1.5k resistor, this 390 ohm resistor, and this 220 ohm resistor. Now that should add up to just under 2.4k. Now if we put our resistors in series, that means if we put them like this, one after another, so like this, our power could come in, or our voltage could come in, and it gets resisted by each of these resistors, meaning that the total resistance adds together. So 390 ohm, add 220 ohm, add 1.8k. If we wanted to subtract, all we'd have to do is put them in parallel, like this. This means that they're next to each other, so the power could come in, it attaches to all 3 resistors, and some is allowed to go through each of them, which means that there's less resistance in total. And that's series and parallel, explained really quickly. But to add this resistor itself now, what I am going to do is I'm going to use this small resistor in the middle as kind of like a link between the 2 larger ones. So I'm just going to wrap that round here. And then same for this one. Just nip the excess off because it's in the way. Same for this one here. We'll just wrap the resistor round. That was terrible wrapping there, Joe. And then if we solder them 2 in, we can then measure it and see where we are. I'm fairly confident that this is going to be the right value, mainly because I've used each of these resistors on their own before and they were within spec, so we shall see. I've cut that well too close, so I'm going to have to find a different resistor because that is not going to hold unless it solders. And it has. Good. Right, so we take our Fluke 101, and again, these things are brilliant. Look at the size of it. It's just fantastic. I had this in my overalls pocket for years on board. We take our Fluke 101, flick it round to ohms. And if you want one of these, by the way, again, as ever, there's an affiliate link in the description. You can get it through Amazon. And ohms-wise, let's check it. We have 2.397k. That is about as bang on. That's not even close enough for government work. That's pretty accurate. I would say that even if you bought a 2.4k resistor, you probably would get somewhere around then, if you're lucky, somewhere around that value. And I snip the legs off. Now this is going to go in the same second tag along as our negative leg of our cap, and then into the 3rd tag as well. Now we are going to have one of our JFETs going into there. I've got some 2M5457 JFETs, like some vintage Motorola ones. I can't wait to use them. I tried using them in a COS-off drive before, but they just don't sound good in there. I really do prefer the J113s and that. But I think the J113s might have been a bit too weak for this pedal. I feel like they have less output. But anyway, we'll see. I don't think I've ever actually built a compressor before. This might be my first one. Can you believe that 72% of people who watch this show are not subscribed? Mental! If you're finding value in my YouTube channel, please could I ask you to just press the subscribe button. It'll help you know when my new videos are coming live, and it'll also show YouTube that I'm bringing value to you, and then they'll share my content to more people. Win-win! Thank you very much for supporting the show. It really means a lot. Now we're on to the op amp, and I like to use a socket to fit the op amp in, so then we're not soldering directly to the op amp. And these sockets come from my mate Jimmy, good old Jimmy Scandals. He sent me a load of them. Thank you very much for that, mate. So how are we going to fit it? Oh, by the way, the op amp that you want for this build is the same as his tube screamer. So it's a JRC 4558. However, I've got this. This is a 072D JRC. This is because Simon from JSA FX Pedals basically said to me that this was like the JRC 4558 on steroids. I'm like, thanks very much, mate. And then I bought a load of them. Mine's not exactly going to be the JRC 4558 like the original, but, you know, I'm sure Dan Armstrong will forgive me for that. Now, to fit this onto the Tagboard, what we're going to need to do is use some of this strip board. You're going to need some that is four strips, if we can see that. So we've got 4 strips. However, you're going to want 6 holes. And that's because we want to add in our op amp and then have 2 holes spare at the sides. And that's because, as you can see, each leg we're going to run a wire off that to our board. Now, another thing to note is that if we remember back to our chorus build, I actually forgot to cut a strip down the middle here. And what happened was the 2 halves of the op amp were joined together and didn't work. It was drawing loads of current. So just to fix that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my hacksaw blade, because everyone knows I don't use a proper saw because I'm an idiot, and I'm going to cut a strip down the centre here. If we take that out the way, and all that's going to do is separate the 2 halves of the op amp. I'm not going to saw it in half or anything like that. And I could really do this with a Stanley blade like I do my normal cuts, but because it's a big line, like a big straight row, it's just easier to do that. We're going to have our little cutout on the socket facing to the left, because that's where the cutout on our op amp will be facing. And then all we have to do is turn it upside down and it's ready for soldering. Put it on an angle to myself so it's not square on, because then you can get into each leg easily. And that's just spun right back round. Brilliant. I'm going to do the 2 opposite ends to hold it in place, and then I'll just go round and do each leg. Nice and easy. It's so much easier than attaching wires to the legs of the op amp like I used to. And then we can just cut off the excess, and that'll make it sit nice and low on the board. Right, if we look at our drawing, we can see on the left hand side of our op amp, pins 1 and 2 are actually linked together. So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a little bit of offcut, bend it over on itself, and drop it in the first 2 holes, and that'll link together our first 2 op amp legs. So just like the drawing there, there's a little link wire going between the legs. I too have a link wire. Brilliant. There. Now we're just going to attach a wire for each leg. Interestingly enough, which, well, I find it interesting anyway, the first leg, or the leg on this side that we're working on, the 2 legs, there's the 2 legs that come out, if we look at our drawing, you can see attached to the same tag. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to attach a wire that's slightly longer than I need and just link it across. So this offcut here, I'm going to put it through the hole here, which we need. I'll bend it over so it stays in place, and then on the bottom side I'm just going to bend the tag over so it lies across the next copper row. And once we've soldered this in place, the first bit, we can snip off the excess on this side like that. Maybe you need to snip off a bit more, and then bend it over so it's touching the copper row next to it, and then all I have to do is solder that in place. And that way, instead of running 2 legs, I can just run the 1 leg, but it's joining both of our op amp legs together. There. And now on the other side of the tagboard, the tagboard, what am I talking about? The other side of the strip board, I'm just going to go ahead and add a component leg for each of these legs. There's our op amp socket now fitted. I've raised it off the board just because it's so wide that I know just about fit in the tags. I didn't want it to short out. So as you can see, it's raised off. Now to solder them in. The thing to look at here is nearly every one of these legs has something going into it, so I can't solder them. The only one that I can solder is this front pin here. We can solder that in place. So now we have a 4.7 microfarad cap coming from the fifth pin, the fifth tag on the bottom row, and it goes up to the fifth tag on the top row, which has this leg here going into it. So that's going to be a little bit of a tricky one, I think. Here's our capacitors. Now normally I snip the legs a bit shorter than this, but I think I'm going to need the length, so I won't do it. We'll give them a bit of a clean, because for some reason the packaging that the Dubilier uses on these is like really sticky. I'm going to have to straighten out the little kink at the top of the legs there. Now if we look at this cap on our drawing, we can see that the negative half of the cap comes to the bottom row and the positive half of the cap goes to the top row. Because we're sliding it in kind of underneath here, I'm just going to angle the legs in a little bit. We've got our negative half pointing down and our positive half pointing up. Now the positive leg is longer than the negative leg, so I'm going to put that in first. Just try and slide it in any way I can, and then I'm going to clip the negative leg a bit, so then I can get it under the board and in. And as you can see, it's just poking out the side there. Now what I'm actually going to do, I think, is lie that cap down, so then it's out of the way. Now this bottom leg I can solder in, but I can't solder the top row in because there's other stuff going in there. Now that it's soldered in, I can straighten it up and slide it under a bit more, so then it's out of the way. I mean, that looks all right there, I think. Right, next in line, on this bottom row, we've got a 1.5K resistor going between our pin here and outside up here, one tag along. What resistor have we got for that? I think I put a precision resistor in here for this one. Yes, I did. So these are ultra high precision military spec resistors. They're like within less than 1% tolerance. It's ridiculous. And they are also ridiculously expensive, which is why you don't see them in all that many audio circuits. Because why would someone use one of these that's really expensive when they can use something a bit cheaper? Also begs the question of why you would build this on Tagboard instead of building on a PCB, which is cheaper, but this is me we're talking about. Now we've got a couple of ways we can put this in. We can go between these two centre holes here and have it going up and down here and just sitting there. Or we can put it on the outside here and sitting up like this, like it is on the drawing. I think I'm going to go through the centre holes, because we have got, looking at our drawing, we've got a diode going to that outside edge. So if we give the legs a snip to set the height, and then I'm going to put the body to the left hand side, because there is other stuff going on the right hand side. Just keep it out the way and solder that in. Now going to the other side, we can see we have a 390 ohm resistor going from the third tag along, and that's coming all the way up to the top of our Opamp to this side here. Now I was going to fit this blue moulded cap in there, but it's massive and I just don't think I'm going to have the room, because this end is going to have to go underneath our jacks inside our enclosure. It's just not going to fit, so I'm going to have to swap that out. There we have our 390k resistor in there. I was going to fit the 47 NF cap going on the outside here, but then I thought, why not put it in the centre? So I'll just add that in now. And there's nothing else going into these tags, so I can solder it in. I did go with the tropical fish mullard, A, because it looks cool, but B, because it's low profile and it means that I'll have room for it to sit underneath the jacks of our enclosure. Now over the top of this, if we look at our drawing here, you can see that we have a 10k resistor that kind of like goes over the top of this. So my 10k is going to be this small carbon film resistor. Again, this is a vintage one though. Got to put some vintage parts in there, otherwise I'll lose my street cred as being the guy who puts ridiculous components into pedals. Right, let's see. So this one's going into the tag in the centre of this cap, missing a tag, and then going into this one over here. Now I could fit that on the outside edge, I suppose, but I'm not going to. Now, you may notice that it's going to be really hard for me to get in here and solder underneath this cap. So all I'm going to do is flip it over and solder it from the underneath. I seem to have got a leg hanging out there. There we go. Now this outside edge here is pretty much done, apart from our transistors or our JFETs. So I'm not going to touch that. There is a 220k resistor to go in over here. Now, let's use our trusty Fluke 101 to determine. I can't read resistor codes. I'm sure some of you guys can, but I just can't. There you go, 220k. Banging. This is a big one. Like, I probably could have done with not using something this size for this particular position, especially as, really, I want it to lie down and not stick up because it's adding height to it. Mind you, this won't be under the jack, so it won't matter what am I talking about. So this one here, I'm just going to bend the leg over and fit it upright. It's going into the same place Dubelier cap went in before, which is the second leg down on this side. Now, I actually think that I'm going to be able to put one of the legs straight in this hole. So while I'm here, I'm just going to solder the Dubelier cap in there, because I'm not going into there now. Snip off the excess. What I'm actually going to do is I'm going to go into here, this hole here. I'm going to go into there, and then I'm going to rest the other leg into this tag here. So next in line is going to be our diode, which is a 1N34A, and we can see on our drawing that the white stripe, which is the cathode, is going into the third tag along on the bottom row, and the anode, which is the positive side, is meeting up with our 1.5k resistor up at this end. Here we have it. It's going to go in here, miss a tag, and go in here. To fit this in, I'm just going to bend the legs over using my snips. I am going to fit this on the outside edge for no other reason than that's where it is on the drawing, and I think it will go in there. There's loads going on this side. So we'll slide it through. It's basically meeting up with our 470k resistor from before. Right, if I have it like this, what I can do is solder both tags. Wait there. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Sweet child of mine, let's check it first. Actually, this tag can't be soldered because there's another component going in there. But this tag can, unless, I tell you what, the 100k resistor that goes in here, I can just add that into the centre. It's always like a challenge to see where you're going to put these components. Kind of like Tetris, you know, the different block sizes that you've got to fit in or whatever. I mean, you could copy the layout exactly, which would be fine if all your components are the same size as the ones that they use to make the layout, which mine clearly aren't. So there's our diode in place. Now let's focus on the next bits, which are, there's a 100k resistor going between the cathode of the diode and the next tag up here, which is our leg off our Opamp. And then also going into that one there is a link that joins this tag to the bottom here, the ground, which is ground. And so we're going to have to add that in. I think I'm going to use probably some wire to do that. So we'll just snip a bit of wire off there because, well, I just can't be bothered messing about trying to insulate or what have you, a bare wire. So if we strip and tin this bad boy, I need to make a t-shirt with strip and tin on. Let me know in the comments what artwork you think should go with it. Should I put some sort of sailor chick stripping with tattoos all over there? Or is that a little bit too sexist? I mean, I am a sailor after all. So I bought these from Modeless Amplification to build an amplifier with, like, many years ago. I just never got round to building the amp, and I've kind of cannibalised the parts. So we've got this nice looking 100k resistor, and look at the legs on that. They're proper shiny. Nice. So this is going to go in here. Let me see. There's more to it, because we've got to add in a 470k, a 4.7 UF cap in there as well, which goes over the same holes as our 100k resistor. So I think it's probably better to join them two together off board and then add them in. So how am I going to do that? Well, if we take our 4.7 microfarad cap and spread the legs out, well, hey, and then if I bend the legs on this, it should be able to intersect them legs and solder them together. Let's see. Actually, that's going to make that sit really high on the board. I don't really want that. So how am I going to do this? There. That's much better. Now at least that's held in. I can solder it into place. Good. And while that's in place, that means that we can solder the other leg without having to fiddle about. It's not the easiest to join these two together and fit it in the space that we've got, which is not exactly big. There. Because the tags are right next to each other as well, I'm going to have to bend the legs back round on themselves, kind of like what we do. Oh, let's get rid of that blob there. Kind of like what we do with our Range Masters, because we use the big caps. If you look at our drawing note, there's a massive space towards the right-hand side of the tagboard that isn't going to get used. So I can use that space. Now, the negative half of our cap is pointing towards that open space. So we've got to make sure that the negative half is that side, and then we can manipulate this leg round and back down on itself, and that way we can put it in this way and it'll hang over the open space. But the issue is then the next tag up has some caps going into it, so we'll have to fit them now, which one of them is a 4.7 capacitor and the other is a 470k resistor. Now the resistor just goes straight up and across, so that's nice and easy. We can do that. I say it's nice and easy. It's starting to get a little bit cramped in this on this tagboard, but we can do it. If we have a little look, we can see the negative half is pointing towards the bottom half. So if we straighten our legs out, the shorter leg is the negative half, and of course we've got that handy band going down it. And the positive half is going into the 8th tag in the top row over here. And we can solder this other end in to keep it stable. Right, there we go. Let's get the excess off this end too. Now that they're out the way and both of these tags are soldered, we can fit this in our original spot, which is up here. And as you can see, there's just enough space to get it in there. We have to just tack this side in and then solder it from the bottom. That's tight. I knew it was going to be a nightmare on this outside edge just because there's so much going on there. What can you do? There, right. Oh, I tell you what I forgot. Oh no, I forgot my little link wire. Don't worry, we can fit it from underneath. And it's going in. So it's going into the end hole here. We'll get that soldered in first. I'll have to remember later on that I've fitted this underneath, otherwise I'll be trying to fit it in thinking that I've forgot it. And then that's going to come round to the 4th tag along. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 4th tag along. Wow, that was a mission. Now that that's done, let's just have a quick recap and make sure that we haven't missed anything. Okay, so we have missed our 2.2 NF cap that goes on this end. We'll fit that in a second because that's going to be a blue moulded cap. It's massive and unnecessary and bloody expensive, I might add. But I love these caps. They sound great. They're my favourite caps in the world. So I'm going to fit this in, and I'm going to have to do a little bit of manoeuvring to get it to get in there, but I want to use it, so it's definitely going in. And then if we come up to the other end, we've got all of our stuff on the outboard side here, but all we've got is these two resistors in the centre, which is a 82K resistor, a 4.7 meg resistor, and a 47 NF cap. So our 82K resistor, I think, is this. It's an old Allen Bradley carbon comp. These are getting bloody expensive now, mind, for what they are. Let's give it a test to make sure that I've got the right one, because who knows. 82.9K, that is definitely close enough for government work. And that's going from the second tag on the end straight up and down. So no messing about with this one. And we can indeed solder the top side of this tag. There's nothing, the top side of this resistor, sorry. There's just nothing else going in there. Now the bottom side has got our 47 NF cap going into it, which is going to be this blue molded cap. Actually, I'm not going to use the blue molded cap. It's just too big to get that one in there. So we'll put that to one side and we'll move on to our 4.7 meg resistor. I haven't got a 4.7 meg resistor. This is the closest I can get to it. Just measure these up again, just to make sure that I am where I am. This smaller resistor is a 1 meg and the larger resistor is a 4 meg. So 1 meg and 4 meg is 5 meg. That's a little bit over what it states is 0.3 over, but this is definitely close enough for government work. I could actually just use this 4 mega thing and get away with it. It's only going to ground. It's an anti-pop resistor. So I think I'm going to do away with the 1 meg and just put the 4 meg in there. If anyone knows a reason for me not to do that, I normally only use a 1 meg anti-pop. So, I'm assuming that when Dan Armstrong or whoever designed this, that's all that they could get hold of. I don't know. Question mark. If anyone knows the answer to that, please let me know in the comments. Always willing to learn. Not to mention that I think this larger resistor is just going to look good on its own in that tag. And we all know that if something looks good, it sounds good. Right, I can solder the bottom leg in. I can't solder the top leg in because we've got our 4.7 NF cap going in there, don't forget. There. I'm going to go ahead and find a capacitor that's suitable for that. So because this end is going to be snuck sort of there underneath our jacks, maybe, I don't know, maybe I'll put it in this way yet. But because I'm thinking about putting it there, I've gone with a real small capacitor to go between these two tags here. It's just going to be easier to get it in there. I'm at least going to get one stupidly big blue molded cap there on this Tagboard, which is, you know, it's good enough for me. This is overkill for this compressor. I've never built a compressor, so I don't know if using the vintage components and stuff is going to make that much of a difference. I'd love to know if anyone else has built an orange squeezer before and what you thought of it. I know the JHS pulp and squeeze, isn't that a modified orange squeezer? Seems like the done thing is to start with either this or something of that ilk if you're building a compressor. Either this or the Dynacomp, isn't it? Oddly enough, I never really got on with the Dynacomp. I did really want to because I know Dan from TPS, he's a fan, which usually means that I'll like it He has very similar tastes to myself when it comes to gear. Now it's time to fit the blue moulded cap. Ha! The legs on this thing are really long. Normally you get them that have been reclaimed out of old amplifiers or stuff. But this is actually, the ones I got are brand new. They've never been soldered before, which is amazing. Now it's going into the first 2 tags on the bottom row, into the centre holes, and I'm just going to lie it right across here like this. So the first leg is going to go straight down, and this leg I'm going to bend it down and then bend it back on itself, pretty much for the length of the cap, and then I'm going to bend it down so it comes down right at the point where it goes into the second tag along. So sort of there, I would have thought. Let's use these in case I snip the leg, because I am getting a little bit excited. What can I say? There. Now how high is it going to need to sit? That's the question. Probably about that high, I would have thought. So it's sitting over the top of them resistors. That means that you'll get to see it. Now if I balance that, will it stay there? No. Maybe I can solder one leg in and then get it to the position I want it. There. So it's sitting prominently on the board. It's the most prominent thing on the board. Great. Now if I flip it over, I can just solder this other leg in. And tidy up this leg. Awesome. Oddly enough, the longer leg of this is going to make a great component leg for something else later on. There we have it. Next, we're on to our JFETs. These are the JFETs in question. They are Motorola 2N5457s. And as you can see, they've got the Motorola stamp on the front. I've never seen any of these faked in this fashion before. And actually, just looking at them, you can tell the fake ones from the real ones. This one on the back, or all of them on the back, have like this red stripe and a green stripe. It's kind of like the Texas Instruments thing where you see them marked on the back as well. I think that's cool. Anyway, let's see how they sound in the pedal. So if we look at our drawing, we can see that on the bottom row, this one has the curve facing towards the tagboard. So I'm just going to clean the legs off actually, because these things are rather old. Now if I had the new DCA 75 instead of the 55, I could probably test these, but I don't have it, so I can't. Now it goes into the second, third and fourth tags with the round part facing towards our tagboard. As ever with these, I like to solder the centre leg in, so wet the tip to make sure that you're getting a good heat transfer. Solder the centre leg in, and then we can straighten out the body of it, so then it's sort of squared up against it. Or what we can do, because it's going to be quite hard to get in, we can snip off the excess of the legs and then bend this up out of the way, and then we can solder the other bits in easily enough. Just means that the body of the FET is going to sit up straight. Now the next one is interesting, because again the curvature of the body of the FET is going to face towards the tags. I'm not sure why this is laid out this way, but just is. I'm terrible at creating layouts for tag boards. My buddy over at Boondock Effects is rather good at it, and he's doing a layout for the Rory Gallagher Rangemaster for me at the minute, which is going to be an interesting project, let me tell you. So let's get it in there. Now again, we're going to do the centre leg, because that's the way that I like to do them, because then you can straighten it all up and sort it out. So once the centre leg's soldered in, we can straighten them up, bend the body upright, and then we can just solder the final legs in, and that should be us for this. awesome. Now everything's in the enclosure. You can see how complex this circuit's got. It's ridiculous. But let's get wiring. So if we look at our drawing, we can see that there isn't that many wires coming out of this. We've got 9 volt DC, our input, our ground, and then our output coming to level 1 on the bottom row. So I'm going to start off with the 9 volt DC input on the top row, which is coming from Q2. So it's coming from over here. It's going to go round and meet up with this here. I'm going to take it down this way, up, and go right the way around the board and up here, because that's the wiring route that I'm going to take for the whole thing. So to wire this one in, I haven't left a space for this to go in because it goes in the same hole as our JFET leg, which is a mistake of mine. I didn't really look to see what was going to be coming out of it. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to use the hook and loop method to make a loop with my wire and attach it to the end of this JFET, or even attach it to the 390k resistor, because then I'm not putting too much in the JFET. There we go. And now all I have to do is solder that in place. There. And now this is interesting because this wire runs the length of the enclosure, so it's also going to dictate exactly where my wiring loom is going to go. So my wiring loom is going to go right the way around the back of our switch here. It's going to come up into this big open space that I've left here, kind of not by coincidence, straight up the center, and then to our DC jack. Now our DC jack has 2 tags on it. Ooh, I don't want to be going that way too much. Two tags on it. One tag is meant for a battery. If you're using a 9 volt battery, then it disconnects the plugged in 9 volts if you are. I never use a battery, so I'm just going to join them both together. If you're interested, it's the center pin, the one that's sort of in the center of the jack, is the one that runs the battery. I'm actually, because there's only one control on this, I'm using a knob to stabilize the body, because if I don't have that there, it drops over to the side. So annoying. Right, next up on the top row is our input, and our input comes from this end tag here. So let's just wire the input in. We're strip and tin this, and it's going to go right into here. And I'm going to run it round the outside, basically following the same route as our last wire, down this outside edge. I always use a screwdriver to like maneuver wires around. I don't know, does anyone else do that, or do you use something else? I don't know why I do that, it's weird. And funnily enough, I got these weird screwdrivers that someone suggested in the comments. I can't remember who that was. If it was you, please let me know. But they're great. And I do also have an affiliates link to them in the description, because I only ever put affiliates links to things that I actually use. Right, now when wiring up to our 3-pole double throw switch, we're going through this center back pin here, and then all the way up to the front right pin, because the front right pin is our input, and the center back pin is going to connect the input to earth if the pedal is off, and that way if there's any noise in the circuit, it just gets ground out. Again, I learned that from Marcus Reeves on his little Monday Minute lessons or little videos on Instagram. Fantastic. Me and Todd actually went to see Marcus the other week. It was fantastic. His workshop is unbelievable. Like, he can talk to Alexa and turn on stuff like Alexa turn the soldering iron on, and his soldering iron and turn on. It's fantastic. It's the antithesis of my workshop. It's so weird. So his workshop is like all high tech and neat and clean and organised, and mine's like a ship. Mine's painted grey for a start. There's no windows because it's dark and dingy, like I'm in the bowels of a ship, and it's laid out like a military workshop. There's just, you know, I can't even explain it. The layout of it's just mad, and I've got like flags everywhere, the ensign everywhere. Mine's very much a workshop, like it would be on board, and his is very much a professional, well thought out workshop. It's just It's funny to see the contrast. I spent the whole day like just walking around in amazement, like, wow. Right, there's that one in. Next up, I'm going to go ahead and just fit our output, which is labelled up as level 1. Now that is on this side of the tagboard, which is our bottom side, and it's 5 tags along. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It goes in the bottom of our 1.5k resistor, 1 tag along from our transistor or JFET. Now to fit this, because my pot has got like, it's not like normal lugs, it's got the old spikes that are meant to go through a PCB. All I do is a strip and tin it and then make a loop and do the hook and loop method round the top of it. Nice and easy. And now all I have to do is run it up to the tag itself. There we are. There's nothing else going in this tag, so it's just straight in. This really is the most simple wiring I've ever done, because, you know, there's not that much to it. It's only one control, which is volume, funnily enough. This pedal should actually be going for sale, although my buddy Dan Mincher has mentioned that he wants to buy a compressor from me, so I don't know if that's going to go to him before I put it up for sale. But if it doesn't go to him, this will be up for sale soon. Right, now on to the earth, the ground. That's our last thing. The grounding point of our tag board is here, which is the bottom row end tag. Things that I need to ground. So it's going to connect to both of our jacks. I'll probably put an offcut across the top of them. It's going to connect to the ground part of our 9-volt jack. It's going to connect to pin 1 of our potentiometer. And that's going to come round and also connect to the centre pin of our 3-pole double throw switch. I'm just going to wire all them in now. There's all of our earths wired in. Next up, we're going to add the output of the whole circuit. And that is coming from this potentiometer here from pin 2. And that's going to go round to the front pin of our 3-pole double throw switch. I have a feeling that this is like a totally reductive volume control, and there isn't going to be much output from this circuit, I don't think. So it's going to be one of them where you have it on full, or it just makes it quieter and seems pointless. But we'll see. Hopefully I'm wrong there, but we shall see. I messed that one up. I mean, the only other way to get round that, if I am wrong in that sense, is to add something like a clean boost after it. Like a sort of, use it almost like a buffer circuit, so it just adds a little bit of boost. I know that my buddy Simon likes he runs JFET. He likes like an LPB1 for that sort of job. And this thing's just come right off, which is fantastic. Well done, Joe. Hopefully I won't have to do that, because I don't fancy building an LPB1 right now. I'll tell you what, an interesting thing happened to a video recently is I didn't put the little diary markers on the timeline that tells you what part is what, you know, so you can skip through. Which was my the video was for my audio probe, and it got like 18,000 views in a week, which is mental. It's like normally I get 1,000 or 2,000 views. So I don't know, do you guys prefer the little timestamps at the bottom or not? I can't decide whether it's a good thing or a bad thing. Right, there's that in place. I can't wait to get the cable ties in. The wires are annoying me already. There's that in place. Next up is going to be our signal wires. So our signal wires are going to come from this jack here, the input jack, come round and go to this side. Then we're going to have a link across the middle. Then from this tag here, we're going to come round the back, up here and to the output jack. Remembering the pedal is upside down, so the output jack is on the right hand side and the input jack is on the left. There's all of our signal wires now wired in. Next, we're going to pay attention to our LED. So what's going on with this? The longer leg is our live. So that's the the anode. I always get them two mixed up. That's the anode, that's the live. I'm going to run a wire from that right the way around this wiring loom up and to the center pin of our DC jack. I'm going to join them two pins together basically, and that's going to be our 9 volts. And then the current limiting resistor, which I've got a 3.9k resistor, is going to come from this front pin here round to the shorter leg of our LED. And that should be us wired up, ready to go. I'll get some cable ties in there and get it back together. And then we can go on for the sound sample, hopefully. And there we have it. I went with a clon knob. Just got to attach the bottom to it. But before we do that, I want to do a little bit of a sound test to make sure that it works. Because, check this out. There's the internals. How good does that look? I mean, it's a little bit crowded. There's loads going on. But I went with some white wire and purple cable ties. I'm kind of glad about that. And now we're on to the sound sample. But before we get there, I'd like to say thank you just to everyone who watches these videos. It really does mean a lot to me. And I would really appreciate it if you could just like this video or maybe even subscribe to the channel. It's helped my channel grow so far. And let's see if we can hit 10,000 subs before the end of the year. Thank you. Let's see how it sounds with a Stratocaster on the middle pickup. Give it a bit more juice. You can hear there's quite a bit of boost there. And we're not really far round on the dial. I mean, this thing can get hairy. Let's keep it back in clean territory though, but let's play a few chords with it engaged and disengaged. Messed that up. Right, let's hear what it sounds like when we give it some welly. When we're giving it some welly, it's got a bit of bite to it. How does it combine with an overdrive? Let's turn on our Illegal Eagles overdrive and see how it takes that. So not all that much difference there really, I don't think. Let's give it a bit more welly. Now it's time to hear it with my Lenson guitars. And here it is, clean. Now let's hear it dirty. What happens if we go a little bit dirty, but then hit the front of our Eagles overdrive, the illegal Eagles overdrive? See what that sounds like. And now let's add some chorus too. If you made it this far through the video, congratulations and well done for listening to me drone on this long. If you have made it this far, if you could write Orange Squeezer in the comments, that'll let me know that you made it through all of my messing about. Thank you for supporting the channel, it really means a lot. If you like this video, you're going to love this video.